Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the iHeartRadio network. Today is a beautiful September the 13th, 2016. And we want to tell everyone worldwide we thank you for listening in. And especially you good old boys out in Latin America. Thank you very much. Bienvenidos to you. Also in Berlin. Got some people tweeting in from Poland. Also on Charlton and Big C Sports on the iHeartRadio network. And, of course, your good old boys from down south in Australia. And, of course, Canada and the great United States of America, Big C. But how's it going for you good old boys down south? Are you still drinking whiskey and wine, Big C?
The hotter it gets, the more white lightning you want to take, keep your body regulated. And
yeah.
You want to keep those pores open, have that sweat rolling out, Charlton. It's another beautiful day down here in the south. Great start to the football season down here. The southern teams, other than Tampa, are doing well.
Hey,
not Tampa, Atlanta.
Atlanta, yeah.
That's what happens when you drink. You have to challenge.
Hey, nothing wrong with moonshine's good. Hey, but moonshine is good for your skin. In fact, I met some good old boys down south one time, and I said, man, I need to go buy some lotion for my face. They said, what do you need lotion for, Curry? I said, I'm kind of getting dry. Dry skin doesn't look good on black men. So they went out to the back of the bar and I got a bucket of moonshine and dipped my head in it, Big C. From then on, my skin's been really smooth, Big C. So I appreciate that very much. But I know you also are into the world of college football, and we have some big games coming up this week, especially the University of Oklahoma and Bob Stoops. Here's a coach that can lose all of the big games, Big C, but he keeps getting his money. So you good old boys down in Oklahoma, but he's playing the big boys from Ohio State this week, Big C. I think that's the second loss of the season for Oklahoma against Ohio State, even though it's in Sooner territory. Your thoughts on Bob Stoops and his job security, Big C?
Well, as you spoke about it, Charlton, it is in job security now for Bob Stoops. He's constantly found a way to lose against top-ranked teams.
Yeah.
He's got Ohio State, a great team coming in. And look at J.T. Barrett, the quarterback of Ohio State, a kid out of Texas, where he grew up.
Yeah.
So this is really going to be his chance to play in the Red River rivalry, Texas versus Oklahoma.
Yeah.
But Bob Stoops has just undelivered for the last 10 years being there at Oklahoma, Charlton. He's had opportunities to get his team to a national championship level, and he keeps stumbling.
Yeah.
But Oklahoma can come out of the box 0-2 this year, Charlton, which would be devastating for that win heritage program. You think about the success that Barry Switzer had there winning national championships. Bob Stoops has a good level, but you come out 0-2 in the Big 12. That you've knocked out of the national championship race already, but you might even be knocked out of the Big 12 race, Charlton.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And speaking of Big 12 racing, and this segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go down and test drive it, tell them that Charlton and Big C sent you. And Big C, people keep saying, does Big C really put mud on his Escalade? You take it four-wheel driving through the mud and swamps back in the South, Big C. I said, yeah, that's Big C's Escalade, Big C.
Well, Charlton, I think it's for real. I mean, that car is about enjoyment.
Yeah.
If you're going to enjoy yourself having fun in the mud, you might as well get the mud and some luxury. I mean, this goes back to the days of mud wrestling that they used to have in nightclubs.
Yeah.
And that's what I think about my Escalade. I'm mud wrestling with it, Charlton.
Well, that's funny. People talk about Dana White, how Dana White, created the UFC and he sold it. He bought it for $2 million, sold it for $4 billion. And I said, Big C said that UFC was actually, it started back in the South, what do you call it, at family get-togethers, Big C, with people fighting over moonshine.
You must moonshine. That's where the WWE started, the good old boys in the backyard going at it. Dana White might have been down at a party and saw what was going on, so hey, I can take this and capitalize on it. Well,
he got all the credit for it. But, going back to college football, and we'll touch off on some NFL football as well, Big C. But you look at, Bob Stoops, the game against Ohio State. That's a great game for college football. I love when they get the intersectional rivalries together. Another game that's not really a big game status-wise, but it's a big game for the coach down at Texas. Strong is coming out to California, and he's playing Jeff Goff's old team, the California Golden Bears. They're favored by 8 points. But I think that Texas is a better team than a lot of people give them credit for, and that the win over Notre Dame is really going to tell. But Charlie Strong has to keep his good old boys intact because they're coming to the West Coast now playing against a pass-happy Cal that can't stop the run, Big C, but they do have the Pac-12 officiators, Big C. Your thoughts on Texas and Charlie Strong?
Well, I go back to the game last year, Charlton, between these two teams.
Yeah.
Texas basically lost the game on a missed kick.
A missed kick, yeah.
They had an opportunity to tie the game, and boom, all of a sudden it was over. They played Cal tooth and nail, back up and down the field. So this was a team that proved that they could play with Cal. Now, Cal this year doesn't have Jeff Goff, the pass-happy quarterback. Maybe the Rams should think about playing him now.
Yeah.
But, when you look at what Texas has done, they have a lot of momentum.
Yeah.
That's the key, and when you're playing with emotion and momentum, it's a big thing. And it took a while for Charlie Strong to get this team to play the way he wanted it to play, Charlton.
Yeah.
But this is Charlie Strong's team now, Charlton. It's no longer Max Brown's team. It's Charlie Strong. And I believe that they'll have the success going out to the West Coast playing Cal because Cal is still searching for an identity.
That's very true. And also, speaking of an identity, Lynn Swann, in fact, he was so mad at the Oakland, actually, when they lost their opener to Alabama, when he realized that you had told him by Twitter that Steve Sarkisian was actually giving the plays to Nick Saban down there at Alabama, Big C. So they put the whipping on Utah State last week. But he's still so mad. He actually rode the right horse up to the play in the Bay Area to play Stafford. Now, that's a big game for Stafford. USC is out of the national championship hunt. But David Shaw, they lost to USC last couple of times they split, Big C. This is a game that Stafford and McCaffrey, they cannot take for granted. USC, they're still better than their loss to Alabama, but Stafford really has to be on their P's and Q's, Big C.
Well, USC has to figure out a way to get their quarterback on track, Charlie.
Yeah.
He has to find more consistency. This is a team that's full of talent. They also have lost some players to suspension. They just suspended one of their linebackers from all activities at the university.
Yeah.
So, this is a team that right now has a little disarray in it. So, how will that affect the play on the field, Charlton, when you have your brethren, that's gone from the team, people that you count on? The coaching staff, play health, is going to have to reel this team back in.
Yeah.
Sit down, have a man-to-man, heart-to-heart talk with him. But David Shaw, we understand his mentality at Stanford. It's about professionalism.
Yeah.
When you look at his athletes, his players, they all handle themselves professionally. They're not a big penalized team. They go out and do yeoman work, play in, play out. You look at McCaffrey. This kid can dominate a football game at any time.
Oh, yeah.
One of the top 5 players in the country, finished, I believe, 3rd in the Heisman balloting last year.
Yeah.
But just a tremendous player that you have to find a way to corral. And he's hurt SC the past couple of years.
Yeah, and speaking of the past couple of years, Alabama playing Mississippi, that's a game that Alabama really has to be aware of, Big C. I know Nick Saban was chewing up the good old boys for barely beating Western Kentucky by 30-something points, Big C. But this game against Mississippi, that's a game which they're in the same conference. Mississippi's not really afraid of Alabama. Nick Saban, will he be all over his why is he always angry? Don't they win most of the games they play, Big C? Why is Nick Saban always angry? He might be really angry if they don't play up to their par this week, Big C.
Well, you search for perfection, and it leaves you with that mind state. But, Mississippi has been a hiccup game the past 2 years for Alabama.
Yeah.
Mississippi's beat them in consecutive years. So they have something to prove. Kelly has had their number. I think Alabama's a much improved team this year, pass defense-wise, and that's where Mississippi has had the advantage over them.
Yeah.
But, Alabama, now that I think that they're settled at quarterback, they played the freshman quarterback starting for the first time in Alabama history. Well, since about 35 years.
Yeah.
The first time. Richard Todd was the last freshman quarterback to start for Alabama. Years ago, ended up becoming a #1 draft pick of the New York Jets.
Yes.
But now that they're settled at quarterback, I think Alabama will get that smooth stride. I don't see Mississippi being a challenge. I think they'll have some hangover from that Florida State game where they let it go in the second half.
Yeah.
So, Alabama will be 3-0 after this weekend.
Well, think about this because that's a big game down in the SEC, but another intersectional game that I really like, and it's something to pay attention to. Oregon, which has really dominated the Pac-10 the last couple of seasons, along with Stanford, they're actually on the road at Nebraska, which has Coach Riley, who coached at Oregon State, so he knows the Oregon Ducks offense and defense very well. And actually, Nebraska at home is a 3-point favorite over Oregon. I don't see Oregon losing that game, but it could be a tough game going into Lincoln, Nebraska on a Saturday, which is the biggest, I think, 3rd biggest city in the state. That's a big game for Oregon, Big C, even more so than Nebraska. Your thoughts on that game?
Well, Mike Riley, understands that Oregon program completely, being out there at Oregon State for at least a decade, Charlton. So he knows the players on that team. He's 2 years removed, but he knows the system.
Yeah.
He knows the coach. So, that's a tough thing when you go somewhere. And, he's looking at a young team that he has, Nebraska now, in his second season, that has bought into his system. Tommy Armstrong is playing the best quarterback of his career at Nebraska. So they can do some things at Nebraska this year that they couldn't do last year. I mean, they had some tough losses last year, but they've handled their opponents. And so it's going to be a tough road game for the Ducks, Charlton.
Last college game, I want to get your thoughts on your friend Jim Harbaugh. He turns everybody around, and what he did at San Diego. We know what he did at Stanford. We know what he did with the 49ers. In fact, he won so much in San Francisco, they fired him, Big C. They didn't like when he was in the Bay Area, Big C. But he has a game. It's against Colorado. They're favored by 20. But I remember that time Michigan played Colorado when they had Cordell Stewart through the Hail Mary. Colorado's a better team than people give them credit for. They're a 20-point underdog at Michigan. Is this a letdown game for Michigan, Big C, or will they roll Big C?
I don't think so, Charlton. Harbaugh has found a way to motivate this organization. You look at him last year, he lost 3 games by a total of 14 points last year, Charlton. So this is a coach that really understands what he's doing. He's got a young team that has bought into his mentality, and he's been aggressive. If you saw all his interactions with his team and the media during the offseason, you let him know that he was in charge, and so his players believe in him. Those games that they've scored 70 points in, that's no fluke. And they played everybody, so it wasn't just the starters running up 70 points. So, this is a game that, when you look at the Big Ten, you got 3 leading teams. You have Ohio State and you have Michigan. Michigan has moved back to the top of the heap in the Big Ten like the Big Ten is supposed to be. Michigan, Ohio State. Don't expect a letdown from Michigan, Charlton.
Well, Big C, speaking of not expecting a letdown, and they're blowing out everybody big, this segment is sponsored by your California Lottery. God, I don't know if you're not listening to my prayers, but I've been praying really hard. I think I even paid a tithe, Big C. I'm looking for that Powerball, and that Mega Million tonight is of $122 million won by Charlton and Big C. And the big one tomorrow night is the Powerball, over $220 million, Big C, won by Charlton and Big C. So, Creflo Dollar, I've been sending you money. TD Jakes, I sent you some money. And also, Joel Olsen, I sent all you guys some money. You got to talk to the guy for Charlton and Big C. Big C, is it getting through, Big C, or are we still on hold?
Well, maybe we ought to ask Donald Trump for the loose change in his pocket, because to him, that's only loose change. That's not enough money to keep his house warm. So maybe we just call that from some fallout, since he won't release his taxes. Maybe release with $100 million.
Well, I understand. Come on, God, honor your word for Charlton and Big C Sports. And also, Big C, speaking of honoring your word, there's a time in life where black men couldn't say anything because they were afraid of the whip, and I don't make fun of slavery or the Jim Crow that followed after it was emancipated, but you have guys like, the former quarterback for the Baltimore Ravens, Trent Dilfer, played at Aptos High School in the Bay Area, went on to play for Jim Sweeney at Fresno State. His African-American wide receivers helped him get into the NFL, Big C, okay? Because they had a lot of speed at Fresno State back in the day. But here's a guy that he chastised whether it's Cam Newton last year for the dab and handing out footballs to kids. He didn't like that, Big C. But now he's telling Kaepernick, he must have thought it was 1940. He said, shut up and sit down if you're a backup quarterback. Would he dare talk to Kaepernick in his face in an alley, Big C? But what is it about Trent Dilfer, who thinks that he can tell another man, especially African-American, to sit up and shut down? I don't think he ever said anything to Ray Lewis when they were teammates, Big C. Your thoughts on telling Cap to sit up and shut down, Big C?
Charlton, Ray Lewis had one of the greatest dances in the NFL history. And he was a teammate of Ray Lewis. Ray Lewis got him a Super Bowl championship. But when you think about Trent Dilfer's actions last year against Cam Newton, coming out blaspheming to me, but I also blame ESPN for giving him that platform also. Because they allowed him to integrate and berate a black man once again, back-to-back years. Then he's going to come out and tell Colin Kaepernick,
shut up,
shut up and sit down because he's a backup quarterback.
He must think he's Governor Wallace down in the South, Big C. What's up with Trent Dilfer?
Hey, Charlton, I'm trying to remember how did Trent Dilfer finish his career. Was he collecting winners on the bench and down as a backup quarterback on the clipboard?
I think he was.
That's how he finished his career as a backup quarterback. So he knows what a backup quarterback is. But at what point in American society is it okay for a black man to speak up and not be chastised by a white man? It's still today, 400 years later, Charles. We have white society telling black people that they cannot speak up against oppression. They cannot speak up against, indiscretions against them in society.
Yeah.
This is what Trent Dilfer's doing with a national platform on the ESPN.
Yeah.
Stepping up and saying this. And when he has black colleagues that are sitting there accepting that they're sitting there being quiet as a church mouse pissing on cotton, and I'm serious about that.
Yeah, I know.
Here he is.
They're shaking in their boots.
When did he become the spokesman? When did he become a senator, a president, or whatever?
Yeah.
Telling society how it should act. How can you speak about oppression with a society and not having lived that way? It's like America now taking away the name of sports teams that are named Redskins.
Yeah.
They're saying that it's denigrating to a society. What is denigrating in America, Charlton, to black society?
Yeah.
Black society has been great ever since it's been brought to America, Charlton.
Yeah.
It has had every bit of its ancestralism taken away from it. Whether, when we do something that's against the norm, it's a protest.
Yeah.
How is it a protest holding and talking about your beliefs?
Yeah.
I can never understand that. If you believe in something wholeheartedly, it's not a protest. It's your belief.
You know what it is?
He's not asking anybody to join him, Charlton.
Yeah.
He's not making a statement against anybody.
Right.
He is saying what his beliefs are against what he feels are injustice.
You know
I want
what?
to make this one last statement on that, Charlton.
Yeah.
If Trent Dilfer feels what has happened to black society over the past decades is not injustice, say that. Don't say that one individual. Don't try to point it on Colin Kaepernick, saying that he's a problem in society. I want everybody white, everybody black in American society who's saying that Colin Kaepernick is wrong, speak up and say all the injustices against black America are wrong, and even worse than what Colin Kaepernick has done, Charles.
Well, Big C, that's very well said, and I encourage guys like Trent Dilfer, and because most white men, they say this in private, but they don't say it in your face. At least he has the balls to come out and say an ignorant statement on the air. But if you could just read the Kerner report, that's Kerner.
Damn, Charles, he ain't even got to read the Kerner report. Just turn on the news.
Well, turn on the news. But Big C,
you said he played with a bunch of black receivers at Fresno State.
Right.
He played with a bunch of black players in the NFL. Charlton. But let me put it to you this way, and we've all heard this in society. You'll hear white people say, I got a couple of black friends.
Yeah.
Why do you only have a couple of black friends? But you never say, I got a couple of white friends. You just say, these are my friends.
Well,
I know a couple of good old boys.
Yeah.
Why is it only a couple?
Well,
black society is more than a couple. Black lives are more than a couple.
Yeah.
But, when you get these people to make these ignorant statements like Trent Dilfer, who is representing ESPN, so it's telling you ESPN is being as stupid as Trent Dilfer because they're not going to admonish him for making those statements.
Well,
but if there had been a Harold Reynolds when he was doing a baseball commentator, he'd have been suspended.
Well,
if there had been a Tony Kornheiser making a statement like that, he would have been suspended. But Trent Dilfer, because he played in NFL, he gets an ignorant pass. I guess he's suffering from CTE, Charles.
Well, we know about that, but Big C, anything that Kaepernick has done is just to bring awareness to what the Kerner report talked about, and that was commissioned by the United States President Lyndon Baines Johnson, one of our greatest presidents in the United States. So I'm sure he would tell Lyndon Baines Johnson, shut up and sit down, also Big C. But I also want people to keep this in mind because it's going to take dialogue. Sometimes it's heated, but it takes dialogue to help make change. I think a lot of people still want the average African-American athlete to be like Jackie Robinson, sit there and take it, don't say anything, but I'm counting on my white brethren, and I know many of you, to stand up and just look at what's right and wrong for everybody. It's not about Kaepernick, it's about equality for everybody. We're still 1 in 5 black men are under the tutelage of the criminal justice system, whether they play pro football, basketball, or baseball or not. They're still maligned in the workforce, and I understand Trent Dilfer growing up in Aptos, California. He may have had a black gardener, Big C, but he didn't have a lot of African-American neighbors until he played in football. But he has a job. He's not that good at it, but he's white, so he's going to keep his job a long time, Big C. But I'd rather him tell Ray Lewis how he really feels when he was out celebrating and doing all this gyrating around Big C. And this segment is also sponsored by United Labor Guaranteed Life Insurance up to $100,000 with no medical questions. Also, we are looking to hire over 1,000 licensed insurance brokers to go to work. Unlike Trent Dilfer, we want to give people a job, not just put them out of work, Big C. And also, we are endorsed by the American Cancer Society and also the American Heart Association. Tweet out to Charlton and Big C Sports. Trent Dilfer, tweet out to us, Trent Dilfer. You might need a job pretty soon. And we're also looking to hire people and put them back to work. Also, Big C, just a thought on the thing that Kaepernick has done. Trent Dilfer has to also admonish the San Francisco 49ers organization because of Colin Kaepernick. They're actually pledging $1 million of their own money to help end poverty. in challenged neighborhoods. I know Trent Dilfer's going to be the next to donate $1 million because he's not just talking; he's going to put his money where his mouth is. Big C.
Well, Trent Dilfer's money went away with that Chrysler dealership that he had down in Visalia, California. So,
okay.
You know, his money is only coming from ESPN now. But when you think about that, Charlton.
Yeah.
Colin Kaepernick opened up social awareness.
Yeah.
Is what he did. And you have white society, many members of the media saying he should create social awareness.
Yeah.
Let things stay status quo.
Just be dumb. We want you guys dumb and big and strong. That's all we want from you, Big C.
We don't want this race understanding and being, abused mentally and physically.
Yeah.
We want them to just accept. We got a couple of them that we're paying $1 million to, so everybody else in poverty should be okay because we got some $1 million apples.
Yeah.
That's what they're saying. But they're not, as you spoke about, Dilfer, how many people on ESPN and in the media nationally, Charlton, are going to do what Colin Kaepernick is pushing?
Well, Trent Dilfer's next, Big C. Wait a minute. I think
$1 million that he makes this year.
I know, but Trent Dilfer's next. In fact, Trent Dilfer's telling everybody that's going to benefit from Colin Kaepernick donating $1 million to sit down and shut up because you don't matter. Because that's what Colin Kaepernick's doing with his money. So I think Trent Dilfer's going to man up. Instead of just talking, he's going to put up the next $1 million. You'll probably hear that on ESPN or an apology. Which one do you think we're going to hear first, Big C?
Well, I look at neither one because also, the 49ers did what Kaepernick did.
Well, he's going to tell them to sit down and shut up too, Big C. York is next.
Quarterback. Now, why don't the other 31 organizations, Charlton, in the NFL match what the 49ers have done? Donate that $1 million to a social cause.
Well,
and publicly state it. Don't do it quiet.
Yeah.
Publicly state it. Say, hey, here's $1 million that we're donating. Charlton, that would be $32 million from the NFL to help social organizations against the impoverishment of black people.
Well, Big C.
Not just black, but socially challenged people.
I think that's true.
And also get the league to do it.
Yeah.
Where's Roger Goodell? Roger going to peel off a couple $1 million.
He got his back pocket. But Big C.
I'm socially conscious. Hey. Because all these guys that work under me, 75% of them are African American. So I benefit greatly financially from their actions throughout the week and on the weekend.
About
so
70.
I'm going to toss in a little bit of coin. I'm only making about $40 million.
Yeah.
So I can spend $2 million.
So about 75% of the NFL's African American. They've helped make Roger Goodell $40 million a year. That's black labor, okay? So black lives do matter for Roger Goodell. He just won't speak up for it. He's not going to tell you. But he's not speaking because Trent Dilfer told him to sit down and shut up too, Big C. So Roger Goodell, we feel your pain. And speaking of feeling your pain, how did Jeff Fisher feel with that $27 million pay raise? They got shut out last night by Blaine Gabbert and the 49ers, Big C. Your thoughts on Jeff Fisher?
Well, Charlton, in all of the NFL last year, there were only 2 shutouts.
Yeah.
We've had the first shutout this week 1 with Jeff Fisher.
Yeah.
Now, we talked about many times the running back, Todd Gurley, Charlton.
Yeah.
And the Rams didn't do anything to improve their offensive line during the draft, during the offseason.
They got Jeff Goff, Big C. Hold on, I disagree. They got Jeff Goff. He was going to improve the offensive line, Big C.
Oh, he was going to block. Okay.
Okay.
My bad. But you got Todd Gurley and you did nothing. But my bad. He's an African American running back. He still gets yards on his own. So you didn't do anything to go out and improve his situation.
Yeah.
You think about when the Rams had the great Eric Dickerson.
Yeah.
They had this huge, hulking, mobile offensive line that John Robertson built for Eric Dickerson to protect Eric Dickerson. He didn't care who was handing the ball off to him. He just wanted to see Eric Dickerson run as well as the rest of the NFL didn't want to see him run.
Yeah.
But, that's what you do when you have great running backs. You go back to Lawrence McCutcheon, who wore number 30 prior to.
Yeah.
Todd Gurley. You look at Marshall Faulk when they had the greatest show.
Oh, amazing.
These teams are all based on their offensive line. You've had Kurt Warner throwing the ball, to those wideouts. But that offensive line protect Kurt Warner. They got out and blocked for Marshall Faulk. They don't have anybody to block now, Charlton.
That's very true, Big C.
I look at these GMs in the NFL and I look at these head coaches. Who is the guy? I guess they're all listening to Todd McShay about who's the next best player.
They might be listening to Trent Dilfer now. He might tell them all to shut up, Big C. You got to understand.
Well, he also worked on the draft show, Charlton, so his selection weren't that great either. But it's always been in football, Charlton. When you look at the great organizations in football, it comes through your offensive line.
Yeah.
When you look at the Steelers' domination of the 70s, Charlton, it came through their offensive line. If you look at the great run that the Oakland Raiders had, It went through their offensive line. I mean, these teams over time, Denver Broncos, it went through their offensive line. The Washington Redskins, Charlton, went through their offensive line. But the Dallas Cowboys, when you think about the great run they had great offensive lines, and those great offensive lines, Charlton, always had these 1,000-yard running backs, okay?
Yeah, always.
It's something synonymous with the two. When you have a great offensive line, you have a tendency to have a running back that exceeds 1,000 yards every year. The Chicago Bears, Sweetness, was an all-time leading rusher. They had a tremendous offensive line, great NFL record. So these are the things that happen. You just can't always draft a quarterback and say this guy is going to get it done, because eventually people will figure out that you don't run the ball.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
If you don't run the ball, you start teeing off on somebody.
And that's definitely true.
That's where the Rams are. They have nothing. And Jeff Fisher, when we talked about job security with Bob Stoops.
Well, he got $27 million. That's something, Big C. That's not a little nothing.
Yeah, but he and Bob Stoops may be in the same line next year, at the soup kitchen.
Hey, well, I tell you, man, it's something else when you think about football. In fact, in the Bay Area media, they were saying, look, Blaine Gabbert should be the starter because they had 3 rushing touchdowns and he had a passing touchdown. Big C. Now they're trying to say, hey, this is the guy that we need. He knows how to hand the ball off. Big C did a good job of it.
Well, when you get a solid running game, and that's what we just came off of, Charlton.
Yeah.
They drafted Carlos Hyde, I believe, about 3 years ago out of Ohio State.
Yeah.
Number 1 in the first round. So, he's now starting to develop. And that's what you need, is that solid running game. I don't care how you look at it. And then if you don't have a running game, Dan Marino, how many years did he play? How many times did he make it to the Super Bowl?
Yeah, one time.
So, one time. He got there early in his career, never got back again. Every year, though, Charlton, he passed for 4,000-plus yards, a couple times 5,000 yards.
Yeah.
But he didn't have a running game, Charlton. As great as Dan Marino was, he did not have a running game.
Yeah.
So that always shortens great teams when it comes to trying to make it to the Super Bowl.
Well,
when you want to be a championship team, Charles, you can always win 4 or 5 games in the NFL.
Yeah.
On any given season.
Well,
but can you win 15 games?
When it counts.
Can you win 12 games, Charles, to be in the hunt for the playoffs and your league title?
Yeah.
That's the difference. So if you don't have that offensive line and that running game, all you're going to do is be a spectator like you and I come to playoffs, buy a ticket.
Hey, I know you're more than a spectator. I saw you down there drinking moonshine with some of those good old boys down south, Big C. And this final segment is sponsored by United Labor and also One Life America Life Insurance. We're the leaders in the country when it comes to final expense. We're also looking to employ, unlike Trent Dilfer, we're looking to hire 1,000 licensed insurance brokers to go to work and protect American families. And we won't tell you to sit down and shut up like Trent Dilfer tells another grown man, Big C, for speaking his mind. Also, the last segment we want to cover is brought to you by BeneathThisWingsFoundation.org and also CYNN Entertainment and Coco Capital. That's KOKO Capital. We do the lending for all the businesses in the United States. Big C, the last thing I want to ask you about, just coming up on baseball, Dusty Baker, another milestone, developing players in baseball. When you look at the baseball race, it's really the great time of year when baseball's starting to shape up now. In the National League East, you have Washington, you have Chicago in the Central, and in the West, you have Los Angeles. In the American League, you have Boston, Cleveland, and then Texas. Who do you like most in baseball? And something about Dusty Baker, he just keeps developing winners, Big C.
Well, Dusty Baker, he's a fixer in baseball. When you look at the organizations he's been with, gone in and gotten them turned around, the Dodgers, the Giants, Cincinnati. Now he's gone into Washington, got the Nationals turned around. They're first place in their division, even though they set down Steven Strasburg last week, for an arm injury. Dusty Baker's done a marvelous job with this franchise, getting them past where Matt Williams had him a year ago.
Yeah.
Matt Williams, another former Giant. But Dusty Baker, for some reason, goes in, gets organizations turned around. Next thing you know, he's out of a job, but he's an African-American general manager.
Are you trying to say that, where I think Cornel West wrote a book called Race Matters? You saying you agree with Cornel West, Big C, that race does matter when it comes to jobs and money in the United States, Big C?
Well, I agree with what I see, and I see these things happening, whether they're in the NFL, the NBA, or Major League Baseball.
So you also agree with Lyndon Baines? So you agree? You also say you agree with former President Lyndon Baines Johnson also, unlike Trent Dilfer, that race does matter when it comes to money and equality.
Well, I believe, the only thing Trent Dilfer didn't say about Colin Kaepernick, he just didn't call it boy. That was the only thing he didn't do.
Yeah.
He just called it, boy, sit down and shut up. That's the only word that he missed. But Trent Dilfer wanted to say boy so bad, man is
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Hey, all he got to do is find Ray Lewis if he wants to let out some vinegar. Find Ray Lewis. I'm sure he has his phone number if he wants to vent what he doesn't like about African Americans speaking their mind, Big C.
But also like back to baseball, I like the Cubs. Joe Madden has done a marvelous job. The Cubs have eclipsed 90 wins this year, Charlton, the first team in baseball to do this, and they've been hot all along.
Oh yeah, they're really good.
They had a little dry spell there for a few games, but the Cubs have been consistent. Joe Madden has brought in the players that fit his scheme.
Yeah.
Not because they're high priced, Charlton. People go out on the free agent market during all season and pay players a copious amount of money. The A's just cut a player that they still owe $10 million next year.
Oh, yeah.
They got $10 million of dead money. The guy don't even have to play. He's going to sit at home. And you see the record of the A's.
Yeah.
So, Billy Beane has probably lost a little contact with baseball.
Well, they've sent moonshine out to California, just so you know, Big C. So don't be mad at Billy Beane. Don't tell us what he's drinking.
But I love what Joe Madden has done. The Orioles have played much better this year than they have in the past. They're most likely to be a wild card team.
Yeah.
You like it when the Indians are doing well. You had the NBA championship in Cleveland.
Yeah.
And, if the Indians can do it playing at the Jake on the Lake,
yeah,
that'll be tremendous for them to get back into Major League playoffs. The Yankees, baseball is always better when the Yankees are in the playoffs. It's going to be tough for them to make it.
Yeah.
But we got the Dodgers on the West Coast, Charlton.
Yeah.
Clayton Kershaw is back in the lineup as a pitcher.
Yeah.
And you think about this, Charlton. Clayton Kershaw, prior to going on the injury list, had more victories than walks on the season.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Dominating pitcher and a paltry 1.79 ERA.
Yeah.
But he had 12 victories and only 9 walks. So this is a guy, when he's on the mound, you can almost chalk it up, as a victory.
Yeah, I mean, and he's also dominant. Just want to see that when it comes to the postseason as well, Big C. And to find a few moments about baseball, we have some great games going on tonight. Oakland's at Kansas City. That's a 4:15 start that started earlier. And then you have Cleveland playing the White Sox. Texas is at Houston. Great game in the state of Texas. Seattle's at the Angels at 7:05 p.m. The Cubs, we talked about the Cubs. They're playing St. Louis. That's a great rivalry right there. Colorado at Arizona and San Diego at San Francisco. And they're 3.5 back right now in the NL West. Big C, just to wrap it up, we talked about some Trent Dilfer. We talked about some college football with Oklahoma and Ohio State coming up. But I just want to end on one of the most highly touted quarterbacks in college football. Not a lot of people talked about him coming into the season. He's out of Louisville, Big C. Your thoughts on
Lamar Jackson, Charlton?
Yeah,
everybody
he's amazing.
Had all their preseason picks on the Heisman, McCaffrey, Watson, so on.
Yeah.
But these are the experts, Charlton. These are the guys who know college football, and the rest of us know nothing.
Yeah.
Okay? but Lamar Jackson, out of University of Louisville, Bobby Petrino's the coach.
Yeah.
He's out of Clearwater, Florida. He's a sophomore, Charlton. The guy stands about 6'3", 205, 208 pounds, runs 4.4, 240. But has the sweetest release as a quarterback that you've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, the ball comes out of his... He looks like a shortstop throwing the football, Charlton.
Yeah.
He is just snapping the wrist, getting it there. This kid played 5 quarters, Charlton. 5 quarters, count them. 16 touchdowns he's accounted for. We got quarterbacks and players on account for 16 touchdowns all year long.
Yeah. Hey, leave Trent Dilfer alone. He already retired, Big C. Trent Dilfer already retired.
He didn't account for 16 touchdowns when the Baltimore Ravens won the Super Bowl. That lets you know how efficient a quarterback that he was. That the defense.
I'm still waiting for Trent Dilfer to tell Ray Lewis to sit down and shut up. I think Ray Lewis would say, "Gentlemen, if you tell the man where I live, he can express himself a little better."
But Lamar Jackson, this is going to be the greatest game of the year in college football, Charlton.
Yeah.
You got Francois, the quarterback at Florida State, the freshman.
Yeah.
You got the sophomore at Louisville. This is a game that in college football, Charlton, you'll see over 100 points scored in. These are the best 2 teams that no one knows about. Florida State, yes, it's actually ranked. Louisville also, they're ranked about number 10.
Yeah.
But when you talk about offensive firepower, you go out and find me 2 quarterbacks in the country. Let others get all the notoriety,
Yeah.
Charlton. Go out and find me 2 quarterbacks in the country that are better than these 2. Deshaun Watson right now cannot hold a candle to either one of these quarterbacks, and he was number 2 Heisman balloting last year.
Those are big accolades, Big C.
Yeah, these are huge accolades, Charlton, but these are real players.
Yeah.
The thing about college football, and any football, Deshaun Watson, if he'd have came out, he would have made a lot of money. He'd have been the number 1 overall draft pick. But they all say they want to come back because they want a chance at winning a national championship.
Yeah.
you know, you have one chance at it generally, unless you're in Alabama. And you get 3 or 4 chances, you know.
Yeah.
Everybody else gets one chance.
Well, if you're in Kentucky playing basketball, Kentucky, you get one chance, definitely. Kentucky gets you 1 year and out, Big C.
Eventually, they'll invite the West Coast into the football playoffs once they expand it.
Wait a minute, Big. Hey, Liz Swan's listening, okay? And he doesn't like those words being taken unkindly by you good old boys from down south.
Well, you know, you got to play in the Midwest or the South. You want to be invited. You know, you got to play some real football.
Sounds
but you
good.
know, when you look at this Louisville, Florida State game, Charlton, I'm really excited about it. And this is a game that should be on the national spotlight on ABC, the game of the week.
Yeah.
Because America deserves to see the 2 best quarterbacks in the country, Charlton. And they'll be playing each other. Unfortunately, it's early in the season.
Yeah.
You know, and one of them will lose.
Yeah.
But, you know, I like Louisville in the game. I like Bobby Petrino. You know, he's had some problems, you know, off the field.
Yeah.
But as a coach, you know, and even if, you know, unless it's something totally egregious, don't worry about what their off the field things are. If they're performing what they're doing on the field. But these 2 quarterbacks, this is the most excited I've been about these 2 quarterbacks playing a long time, Charles.
Well, Big C, I'm excited also. I'm excited that Trent Dilfer won't tell Big C to sit down and shut up. If he only had the chance to, Big C, you might be careful. Trent Dilfer has a big old bodyguard walking around with him. He might even be bigger than you, Big C, but every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time, worldwide, follow Charlton and Big C Sports on the iHeartRadio network, the biggest platform in the country. And also, if you're looking for work, tweet out to Charlton and Big C Sports. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook every Monday through Friday at 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time, worldwide. We thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.